Back once again, the more you eat, the less I have to eat. Help me out, all right? Because I will eat all those cookies. So I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Emmanuel Bloomfield Jones. I am the co-president of the Friends of Manus Harbor. We are a non-profit here in Staten Island that really addresses equity and really truly supports marginalized communities, especially here on the North Shore of Staten Island. In addition to that, I work full-time at the College of Staten Island, and I also run a transformative mentoring program for NYSIG. I know you're probably like, what does that have to do with home buying, right? So in my personal life, I actually was able to go from living in affordable housing to purchasing 3 houses in a 4-year span. So if I was able to do that, I believe everyone else is able to do that, and that's what today is about. It's really just giving you the tools necessary to be able to accomplish that goal and that feat. So before we get started, what I'm going to ask is just, I want to kind of hear from you all really quickly, right? Just kind of where you at right now in the home buying process. What are your goals for today? And kind of what brought you here? So you can share any which one you would like. Who would like to share? Everyone doesn't have to share, but if you would like to share. And this could be very interactive. I'm going to talk, I'm going to hear from you guys, etc. And Toda, I'm just going to ask the video. So, that's it.
Hi, good morning. I'm Jessica Young, a little Staten Island resident, and I work at Job Plus. I'm here because I really want to do the same thing, be a homeowner. I'm a business owner, but I want to have different properties to, really increase equity in the community, but then also empower our Job Plus members. They're not paying me just being passionate and sharing that information so somebody else can be empowered as well.
Wonderful. Someone over here.
All right. Well, my name is Ev. I work for the city, and for me, I wanted to just learn, receive more information on my sister who is actually interested in buying her first home, and she couldn't make it. So for me, I think I'm here just to get some information and bring it back to her, and also learn from myself too.
Perfect. And another good thing which we decided to do today, we're actually live streaming right now. So if you have Facebook, or if you want to kind of just direct someone to our Facebook page, they'll be able to get a lot of that information as well. So just to kind of put that out there, make sure you follow us on Facebook.
Yes,
right? Put that out there. So one thing I do want to just mention, if you do have questions as I go through the different various slides, feel free to ask a question, right? I'm not one of those individuals who's going to tell you to hold all your questions to the very end, right? Once again, want to be very interactive. Your question may be a question that someone else has, so always feel free to share, and don't be scared to, just raise your hand or ask. All right. Just want to give a quick disclaimer, right? So I did not go to school for home buying. I don't have a certification in home buying. Everything that I will be sharing today is simply kind of like the steps in which I have taken, which are some of the best practices that I use. So if something doesn't work out exactly how I said it, don't hold me to it, all right? However, I will be giving you a lot of knowledge that has worked, and I truly believe that it will work for you as well, all right? So I just want to kind of really highlight that. And another thing is, I like to use personal examples, right? So I know sometimes people like to use like scenarios and hypothetical. I'm going to be very transparent today, and you're going to see like some real numbers, some real like dollar amounts that I actually personally use because I feel that's more valuable than me just making up fake numbers. All right, so we're going to be focusing on 3 areas today, right? And I'm going to teach you all kind of what to expect before you make an offer, what to expect after you make an offer, and I'm also going to give you some helpful information as well that will truly help you throughout this process. So what are some questions you think you should ask yourself before you actually start this home buying process? Share out. If you just shout something out. What are some questions you might ask? Or questions you already asked yourself?
How much money I'm trying to spend?
How much money I'm trying to spend, right? Very, very good one. What's another question you might ask yourself, or you have already asked yourself before you start this process?
Can I really afford it?
Can I really afford it, right? So these are some valuable questions. And I always encourage people to start by asking questions, right? And getting some answers. So just like you just stated, how much can I afford? It's important because if you're a person only making, not only making, but let's say you're making $2,000 a month, and you're looking for a place that the mortgage is $2,000 a month. Does that make any sense? No. So you want to be mindful of how much you're bringing in and how much do you really believe you could afford, especially with your other bills and obligations that you have. Right? How much can I put down? Right? Can you put down 3%? Can you put down 5%, 10%, 20%? So depending, right, and determining on how much you could put down will factor in possibly on what type of loan you should get. So there are various loans, but these are some of the popular ones. Maybe you've heard of them, maybe you haven't heard of them, but FHA, right, which is a great program, especially for first-time home buyers, conventional loans, and 3OK loans. Anyone ever heard of a 3OK loan before? No, right? So oftentimes, a lot of people don't know what that loan is. So the first home I ever purchased, that was the loan I actually got. So that's a good home loan, especially if you're trying to buy a foreclosed property, because they actually give you money to renovate the property as well. So you will get the money for the house and money for renovations. So if that's a route that you really want to pursue, highly encourage you to look more into 3OK loans. Is my credit good? Right, these are just some helpful tools, right? You could go to like Credit Karma and different things of that nature to really check your credit. But you want to know what's your credit score looking like, because depending on that credit score will determine like the amount that you will have to like put down. It will determine your interest rate and so many other factors. So credit, and knowing your credit is very important, especially if you don't want to get taken advantage of. Because if you don't know your credit score, someone might tell you a crazy interest rate, so you can actually get it lower if your score was a lot higher. So, some other things, right? Where do you want to live? Do you want a house or a condo? So who likes to shovel?
I know.
Shovel. Who's totally against shoveling? I'm just going to ask, just be mindful of walking past, just because of the PowerPoint.
I'm against shoveling.
Against shoveling, right? So, a corner property with a lot of land, would that be the best thing for you? No, right? So these are some questions that you definitely want to ask yourself, right? Maybe a condo might be a good investment because you don't have to worry about shoveling. Oftentimes with a condo, you'll pay like an association fee, and that is taken care of in that association fee. So that's why I just wanted to kind of highlight that, right? How many bedrooms do I need? Well, I want more children. So oftentimes people may buy a home based on what they have currently, right? So if they have one child, no, I need a 2-bedroom for me and my child. But if you're planning on maybe getting married, or if you are married, you want to have other children, you want to factor that in. So you might want to get additional bedrooms. So just be mindful of that, right? What if you want a backyard, a front yard, etc., and what type of loan, the length of the loan that you want. Is it a 15-year, a 20-year, etc. So be mindful of that. Important things to know. And this is actually a realtor told me this, and it always stuck with me. Everything is negotiable. Right? And when I say everything is negotiable, I mean everything. From the price of the house to what's left in the house, right? You can negotiate everything. Interest rates, so never be afraid to ask. If you ask, you'll be surprised what you can possibly get. So I highly encourage you to always negotiate. Don't be afraid to, right? Consider a fixed loan or adjustable loan. And basically what that means is a fixed loan is a loan where if you get a 3% interest rate, for that 30 years, you only going to have a 3% interest rate throughout the whole length of your loan. Adjustable loan means basically it's going to fluctuate depending on the market. If the market is really good, you might have a really good interest rate for that time, right? The next year, right, depending on whatever may happen, right, in the world, if the interest and the market goes up, your interest rate is going to go up. So I highly encourage people to go with that fixed, but that's totally up to you though. All right? Avoid opening new lines of credit. So when you're in this process, you don't want to open a car loan, you don't want to open credit cards, anything of that nature, because that could be a red flag on your credit, and that could really truly hurt you throughout this in that process. Right? Fall in love with the numbers, then fall in love with the house. Now I'm going to kind of touch on this a little more. So females, don't hurt me, right? So oftentimes, I know, I shouldn't say oftentimes, right? Sometimes, right, especially women, you may fall in love with the house. You may walk into the house and you're like, you know what, this has the white fence that I want, this has the granite countertops, it has the floors, I want this house, right? but you're not really being mindful of the numbers. That's what's really most important. At the end of the day, a house is an investment, and you want to buy low, right, so that you can sell high later on. So always fall in love with the numbers, then fall in love with the house. Many banks will require you just to pay like a lot of the things off of your debt, so just be mindful of that. Have at least, you should know that you need at least 2 years of steady employment with no gaps. Right? Another important thing is that sometimes a down payment can't be a gift. So if you're a person who may think, hey, I'm going to get some money from like one of my parents, a significant other, someone who you do not share an account with, that might not work. So you want to have these conversations first with the bank before agreeing to a loan. Because they may tell you, hey, this loan, no, you cannot get a gift. All this money has to already be in your account, and they're going to ask also for bank statements going back 3 months, sometimes even 6 months. So this money must show that you had it this whole time, not that it just fell out of the sky, right? Because we all know money doesn't grow on trees, and they know that as well. So be mindful of that. And this is just some helpful tips just to kind of check your credit. Once again, absolutely free, creditkarma.com. And just to check your interest rates, I always encourage people to go to bankrate.com. And the reason why you want to do that, especially before you even contact the bank, is because banks are in it for themselves, right? They're going to try to give you a higher interest rate because that benefits them. But you want to go there knowing and already have done your homework. So you want to know, no, this is what the interest rates are right now throughout the nation, right? It says, hey, you're at 3.75%. This is where my credit is, and this is what I should be getting. So you should be able to go in there kind of demanding, right, the credit score that you want, if your credit is right. So where do I begin? What do you think you guys should begin? Where do you begin with the home buying process? So we already got the questions out. So that was one step. Where do you begin? Saving money. Where else? Credit. What happens if I told you you're already began? Oh, sorry. So I'm just going to ask if you just be mindful of. Sorry. If you could just. Yeah, to the PowerPoint. So. Sorry. Yes, in the back.
I was gonna say maybe like doing a little bit of research on the neighborhood you're interested in to move into.
I agree, and we're actually going to touch on that, so I'm glad that you brought that up. But one thing I do want to say is that everyone who's in this room today already started this process. You took that first step, right, by coming to this home buying workshop. You could be doing anything right now, right? This is the Saturday before Thanksgiving. You could be out shopping, you could be out cleaning your house, right? You could be out doing God knows what else, right? However, you all really made the decision to be here and to really take the initiative. So I just want to really truly just give you all a round of applause for already, right, starting this process. And just some quick tips, right? Ask questions and network as much as possible. And this is why we are truly encouraging everyone to network, right, and to ask as many questions as possible today. So I'm here, other people are here who may know some more information as well. Ask as many questions because we will definitely answer it. Google is your best friend, right? I always encourage you once again, do your own research and your homework. And some other helpful thing, right? The neighborhood housing services. So there's some information in the back that they provided. They actually provide workshops. If you attend their workshops, they will give you like a grant for like a down payment and to really help you get your foot into the door. So I highly encourage you to take advantage of programs like that. Yes.
Those workshops at neighborhood housing, there's a fee, right?
I'm not certain.
Yes.
There is a fee? How much is the fee?
$75 or $100. I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, and they actually have a workshop coming up. There's a flyer in the back. So I guess at the end, if you would like to take a flyer, yeah, I encourage you. And just FYI, so everyone knows that they previously was on Castleton. I just want to point that out. They moved to Corson. It's going to be a slide later. Feel free, and you can feel free to take a picture of any slide that you want to, but especially on that slide, I highly encourage you to take a picture so you have the information. So pre-offer, right? So pre-qualification versus pre-approval. Are these two the same thing? What do y'all think? No. What do you think of some of the differences?
You have to at least qualify before you can be approved.
So you might have to qualify before you approve. What else? Who ever heard these terms of pre-approval or pre-qualification? And what did you hear about it?
It's like certain guidelines that they want you to have before you have to do it. I can find a home or a car or anything.
Right? But oftentimes, people think these two are actually one and the same, but they're not. And there's a big, big difference between the two, which I'm going to explain right now. So, as we see, with both, right, they both ran your credit, right, check all three different bureaus on your credit report. But the really big difference is that here, income and assets are verbally provided with the loan officer, right? Income and assets documents are received and reviewed, right? One is determined based on verification. One is determined without verification. So think about if you went to a doctor, right? And one doctor had you get on a scale. They know exactly how much you weigh. Will we agree? All right. We go to another doctor. That doctor does not tell you to get on a scale. That doctor asks you, how much do you weigh? Right? If we maybe took out the garbage the night before, right? We walked to the store, we might take off a few pounds, right? We might say, you know what? I ain't 200 today because I burned a few calories yesterday. Maybe I'm 190, etc. So it's not always accurate. So that's why it's really important to go for a pre-approval and to try to get the pre-approval rather than a pre-qualification. And I'm just going to ask if you could play this quick video. So, and this will explain it a lot more.
Or pre-approval. What's the difference? Perhaps it's easiest if we just show you. Let's take a look at Fast Freddy. Freddy likes to do everything fast. Really fast. He found a house that he really liked advertised for sale. He heard the fastest way to have an offer accepted is to get pre-qualified. So off he went to Fund & Fast Mortgage Company. And they weren't kidding. He was in and out the door in 10 minutes flat. He even got a fancy-looking pre-qualification certificate. Freddy sped back and made a fast offer on the house. It was accepted just as quickly. Yay! On the other side of town, Thorough Theodore visited his mortgage lender for a pre-approval, not a pre-qualification. The mortgage lender collected all of Theodore's documents and ran a credit report. Even an underwriter reviewed Theodore's application. It wasn't long before Theodore got his pre-approval. Theodore shopped for homes and found one he loved. Using his pre-approved status, he negotiated a price he knew he could afford. What do you think happened to Fast Freddy and Thorough Theodore as closing day approached?
So there are two options, right? That Fast Freddy, right, and Theodore both closed right on time, or get Fast Freddy closed on time, but Theodore closed late. What do we think? They both closed on time. Click that option, Jared. Oh, there's actually a few more.
Scroll down?
Yeah, but let's just go with the top one. No, just click, yeah. No. Keep going. Keep going. Right, so that's why pre-approval is very important compared to a pre-qualification. So if we could just go back to the PowerPoint. And for those who just walked in, just wanted to kind of let everyone know there's some food in the back. Help yourself throughout the presentation. If you do want to take any pictures throughout the presentation, feel free to do so. Feel free to ask questions as I'm speaking. There's also a raffle that's going on, so make sure you get a raffle. And there's also a MetroCard. So if anyone needs a MetroCard, if you have MetroCard, actually we're giving a MetroCard to everyone who's here. So we definitely will make sure you get one before you leave. So just some really quick key points about pre-approval, right? You want to make sure that you get pre-approved once you're certain that you're going to really move forward with this process. Because this will be a credit inquiry on your credit. It will also start the clock because it's usually only good for 90 days. So as soon as you get that pre-approval, it's a 90-day clock that's just begun. So be mindful of that because that could possibly hurt you later on. If you get too many pre-approvals, you only need one pre-approval as well. Don't keep shopping around like, well, this person gave me a pre-approval, but they gave me like a high credit score, a high interest rate, right? That doesn't matter right now. because later on, which I'm going to talk about, you'll be able to kind of shop around and really get that interest rate that you prefer. All right, so just be mindful of that. And also, a pre-approval or pre-qualification also doesn't guarantee you a loan either. It's highly likely with a pre-approval you will get a loan, but it's not guaranteed. All right. And this is just some information that they're going to require you to provide. So you're going to have to give them like your bank statements, tax return, ID, social security number. So just be mindful and start getting that stuff ready. Because the quicker you give it to them, the quicker everything will kind of really just kind of go. Right? And you'll be better off. All right. So let the search begin. Right? So once you're ready, you got the pre-approval, you know exactly how much you can afford. You know, hey, this is the price that I'm working with, because just because you think you know what you can afford, that pre-approval is going to be the thing that really tells you what you can afford, right? And sometimes that's an eye-opener in a bad way and in a good way. So you want to start browsing just different sites, right? So like Zillow, Homes.com. Has anyone used any other websites before to look for houses? Truly, right? That's another good one. Who ever heard of Homepath.com? Right, so that's one that's not really that popular, but it's very effective. So the first house I ever purchased, I actually got a property off Homepath.com. So Homepath.com is Fannie Mae's foreclosure website. So you could put any city, any state, right, any place, and it will tell you all the homes that are for sale that have been foreclosed that you can actually purchase. Another good thing is when I went through this site, you don't have to worry about actually meeting with, because these are all big homes. So when you make the offer, you're actually making the offer online as well. So you don't got to worry about shady business, right? People trying to like up the price on you, trying to make you kind of negotiate between you and another person. This is strictly with the banks, and it's truly secure. So I highly encourage you to go that route. And at that time, they actually gave me money towards my closing too, all through the website. So really look at this, and once again, do your homework. Find a good realtor, right? Start asking for referrals. I always encourage people, Google reviews. Now you can Google everything. You can even Google realtors. So if you find a realtor, see what people have said about this realtor. Even though that person may come off nice, people may say some horrible things about that person. That person might not be a good fit. So I just highly encourage you to always, once again, do your homework. And feel free to use multiple realtors. So realtors will tell you, oh, you can only use one, right? You don't need multiple because that's in their best interest. You have to do what's in your best interest, right? So always encourage you, just because basically one person may have some homes that they have access to, right? And some others may have their own contacts. So once again, use as many as possible. Tour as many houses as you want. I remember the last house I purchased, I'm going to tell you 20 different homes before I found the one that I wanted. And sometimes people will tell you, oh, you only need 5 homes, 6 homes, right, to make a decision. No, you make a decision when you are ready to make a decision. So see as many houses as possible. And have fun. This is that fun time, right? This is searching for a house. This is where you're going to live for the next 5, 10, I mean, the rest of your life. So, are there more chairs back there? There's chairs. Sorry. So just some quick tips when you start this process, right? Check property taxes. Very important, especially if you're looking for a house in Jersey. Jersey is very expensive with property taxes. So you want to be mindful. Even though the house may be cheap, the property taxes may be like $1,000 a month on top of your mortgage. So do your homework, right? Don't let anyone ever pressure you into making an offer. This is something you have to live with, right? Make sure that house has good bones and structure. What does that mean, good bones? Good foundation, right? Good walls. When you go in there, you feel like, you know what? I feel like safe, right? People in here, etc. You always want to inspect the house, even though you're going to get a home inspection, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. when you first go and you're looking at the house, right, open up some windows, bring like your phone charger, make sure like the outlets work, cut the water on, flush the toilet, right? Make sure, because people know how to mask certain things, right? Everything that glitter ain't gold, right? That's something my mother told me when I was young. The same thing goes for a house, so don't think God out there, all right? So I highly encourage you to be mindful of that. Don't base your decision, right? We talked about this a little earlier, strictly on the house decor or the cosmetics. Just because the house looks nice, there could be a lot of other factors. So I know, Nick, you were just alluding to this, right? You touched on it. So certain things that you might want to drive past the house before you even go see the house, or before you tell your realtor, hey, make an appointment, I encourage you to drive past it, right? Just to see if the house is really what it looks like online. Sometimes with people, yes.
I was also thinking, also in the terms of like, maybe as far as access towards like work or maybe public transportation, if that's necessary for you. Is there a bus that can get me to the ferry or a train, or how frequent does it come around here? Like things like that, I thought you gotta take into like care as well.
I agree. Same thing with supermarkets, pharmacies, hospitals, school zones. We're gonna touch on, right? Very, very important. I always encourage people to tour the house during the day, because especially on like a Friday or a Saturday, because that's where you know kind of what that neighborhood really looks like, right? Sometimes if you go at night, people might not always be outside. Or I also encourage you to go at night too. Just basically go all different times of the day before you really make that offer, so you know exactly what you're getting yourself into. Once again, like I said, I have to use personal stories. First house I ever purchased, right? Kind of made this mistake. I didn't look at the school zone. I didn't look at the house. You know, I was just happy, go lucky. I got pre-approved. I got an offer. I'm getting my first house, right? First month in that house, me and my wife upstairs actually got robbed downstairs. Kid you not. So just be mindful, doing your homework, all right? Consider visiting the house when it's raining, especially real heavy. So even if you already saw the house and when it's a downpour, ask to go back that same day or the day after. That's how you can check for leaks, right? Go into the basement, look at the wall, look at the ceiling. So that's just a little trick, you know. Right? Kind of going back to what you said, the school zone. You want to make sure, especially if you have kids or plan on having kids, that your kids are going to some good schools, right? You don't want them going to like felon schools and different things of that nature. So that's really, really important, especially when you go into a new area, right? And differentiate your needs from your wants, right? Because you can live without your wants, but we can't live without our needs. So know which one you need. So making an offer. So please note that a real estate contract is a binding contract. Who knows what a binding contract is? You know what a binding contract is? Anyone ever heard of that? Binding contract? I've never heard of it. What is that? Oh.
The best way I can describe it, legal agreement that you're binding.
Yes.
This is like lawsuit permittable.
Exactly, lawsuit, right, binding, right? So this is a contract that you are going forward with, right? And that means basically if you break this contract, there will be some penalties, right? And some of those penalties can be, we're going to kind of talk about it, but you're going to have to give a deposit, right? And that seller will be able to keep that deposit because you kind of didn't do your end of the bargain. So just be mindful of that. This can be very, very stressful time. It's just because you're playing like this waiting game. You may put an offer in on Monday, but you might not even know that you got the house until like Thursday, Friday. So just that stress, just prepare yourself for that mentally. Make sure you start working with your realtor right away, right? Just because there's a lot of things that they're gonna have to do. And please note that like fixtures, appliances, like any plants that are in the house, blinds, chandeliers, right? That's always included with the house. So that must stay. They have like window treatments and different things of that nature. They cannot remove that from the house. So once you buy the house, all that's always included. So those fixtures. Right. So starting to also feel free to negotiate throughout this time. So if a house is, let's say, $300,000, offer $290, right? Offer $280. See what they say. You can play that game with them, right? Go back and forth if that's something that you feel comfortable like doing. negotiate furniture, so if you like a dresser that's in that house, if you want that, the drill in the backyard, or maybe have a pool table or TV on the wall, if you want that, this is the time to put that in a contract. Put whatever you want in that contract and see if it gets accepted. Also, there's something called seller's concessions. Anyone have ever heard of that? Anyone familiar with seller's concession? So let's say you can't necessarily pay out of pocket or with the down payment and the closing costs. You could actually put the closing costs, have that factored into the contract. So when the seller will take care of that. So let's say the house was really $200,000. You may say, I'm going to offer $310,000, and that $10,000 is going to the seller's concession, which means they will be taking that and putting it towards the money that you will have to put. Right? And the seller will just have to agree with that. So the property that I had sold last year, the person who bought the property, they had that put in place, and everything was all fine.
Can you do that, say that again, what were the numbers? You said 310?
Well, I would just give you like random numbers, but like let's say the house was $300,000, and you factor your closing costs is going to be about like $10,000, right, or like $5,000. You would put that into like that mortgage, right? So you would say, I'm going to make you an offer for $310,000, and that $10,000 is going to be used towards my closing costs, which is called a seller concession. And therefore, if you're a lawyer, the realtors, they'll all be aware of that and be able to kind of navigate you through that process. Just be mindful, once that offer is accepted, you usually have to give a deposit, which is about $1,000. It may be more depending on what the property is worth.
What kind of fees are in a closing cost?
So we're going to actually talk about that a little later, some of those fees. I'm actually going to give you a breakdown. So start looking for an attorney. Oftentimes, the realtor will actually refer an attorney, but you always feel free to use your own attorney, especially if you know someone, do your research as well. And some states don't even actually need you don't use an attorney at all. So I bought a property in Pennsylvania, and there's no attorney in Pennsylvania. The realtor actually handles everything. So just be mindful of that. But in New York and New Jersey, you definitely need an attorney. That's probably like about usually like anywhere from, I would say, like $1,200 to $1,500, which would be including like the closing costs going back to what you decided. So what happens after the offer is accepted, right? First and foremost, thank God, right? Time to celebrate, right? Start dancing. You might have a significant other. You might hug and kiss each other, right? You go out and celebrate. This is a huge, huge accomplishment. Some of it is stressful waiting, but once you get that good news, it's like, thank you, Lord. Send that contract to the lawyer ASAP. And this process, now you want to really start being proactive. You want to start being on your bank. You want to start being on that realtor. You want to start being on that lawyer, because you don't want no delays to happen at all. So you really got to, remember, they're working with other clients as well, but you always want to be in their mind. So always, always, always stay on top of them. Start searching for a mortgage lender or a broker. So even though you have a pre-approval and a bank already gave you a pre-approval, you don't necessarily have to go with that bank anymore. So this is why I encourage people to start now looking and start doing research. I'm actually going to give you some examples, right? And also determine if you're going to use a mortgage lender or a broker or banker, right? There's actually a difference. We're not going to go into, but decide which one works best for you. Check the mortgage interest rates for that state. So now, once again, you want to start doing that all over again. What are the interest rates today? Interest rates can change every single day, right? Abraham, I know you work in the banking system. How often does mortgage interest rates change?
It normally depends on the market. So basically, the Federal Reserve, they just dropped the prime rate down 0.25%. So basically, the rates they basically fluctuate based on what the Federal Reserve does.
And do you know kind of what the current rates were last week?
Last week, I think it was 3.75,
which is a really, really good competitive
yeah, so
rate.
That's a good rate for if you're trying to do like a 30-year fix. But another thing to look at is if you don't plan on staying in a home for a very long time, then an adjustable rate might be the best option for you. For instance, they have 10-1 adjustable rates, so it's basically fixed for 10 years. If you know you're going to be out of the home within those 10 years, your rate's most likely going to be lower than the fixed rate.
Because for an adjustable rate for a 10-1 arm, it's basically like 2.85. But for a fixed rate, 3.75. So, you know, it basically depends on what you want to do in those situations.
So if you're planning on staying here for 30 years,
Yeah, then you're better off.
you're rolling the dice a little bit. So just be mindful of that. Thank you for sharing that. Right? Start contacting 3 to 5 different companies. And this is just some quick example. Remember I told you I'm actually going to use a lot of personal examples, right? Because I don't really like the whole hypothetical. So these are real numbers, right, for the last property in which I purchased. So you can't really see it that well. So basically, I had contacted Chase, MCU, this was Home Point, Fulton Bank, as well as NJ Lending. So I actually contacted 5 different banks. And I made an Excel spreadsheet. And basically, in that Excel spreadsheet, I wanted to know what are the rates that they're offering, right? One was offering for a quarter, right, 4%, 3.87%. I asked them, what are some of your fees, right? What are the closing court fees? What promotions you got? And basically, I was able to make an informed decision based on me being proactive, right, and doing and comparing. So that's why I encourage you to do too. Compare and contrast. Don't just go with one bank and don't just always believe what one person says, right? Do your own homework. And I actually want to go with NJ Lending because they gave you the most competitive thing across the board. And another thing I just want to quickly point out, so PMI. So you probably never heard of PMI, so that's actually mortgage insurance. And that's basically, if you're not going to put down 20%, this is going to be a requirement. It's going to be a monthly fee that the bank charges you, right, on top of your principal and interest, basically for them to sleep good at night. So God forbid you foreclose in a house, they know they have that insurance in place that you're paying for, that they'd be able to kind of recuperate all their money. So once again, if you're putting anything less than 20%, you're going to have to pay the PMI. So you also want to ask the banks that too, what is the PMI are going to be? They should be able to give you an estimate, not a hard number, but at least an estimate around about. Okay? So, some other things, right? When you are preparing and you are calling banks, they're going to tell you, we need your credit, we need to run your credit, we need your social security number, right? We cannot give you any numbers without it. That is not true. Once you got that pre-approval, you already know what your credit score is, right? You have paper and documentation, right, that bank is going to give you saying this is what your credit score is for each and every one of these 3 bureaus that we check, right? So all you have to do is really show the bank status. And be firm, because sometimes they're going to be like, no, right? But you also, I encourage you to push back as well. And just say, hey, I don't feel comfortable doing that, but I would just like, at least if you could give me some type of estimate. So I highly encourage you, once again, try to give maybe 1 or 2 people your credit, your social security, because you don't want all those inquiries on your credit report. All right? Any questions? Did I kind of explain that good, or was that everyone kind of got it? All right. We shop around. Working with your mortgage company. Make sure your loan is locked. So what I mean by a locked loan is just because someone tells you, hey, they're giving you 3.5%. They may verbally say that, and that's fine, but if it's not locked, if you don't have documentation saying that loan was locked, it doesn't mean anything, right? Because it could be 3.5% today, but tomorrow it might jump to 4%. So you want them to lock your loan, right? And that basically is how your loan rate is guaranteed. And you also want to request that your locked loan, right? The loan is locked for at least 45 days. Sometimes they might say, oh, we got to lock this loan for 20 days. We got to lock this loan for 30 days. So, right, you should be able to close in 30 days. There could be a whole bunch of different factors that happen after they delay that closing. So at the minimum, I would say it's 45 days. But the average loan, I would say probably like 45 days and 60 days of closing, just because of factors that could possibly happen. So just make sure you tell me that. And there's also points that you can pay that could lower your interest rate as well. I'm not going to really touch on that, but just do your research on mortgage points. And that's basically just a quick, a little fee, maybe like $100, $200 that you pay, and it may drop like a half a point or a few percentage. Always make sure, right, during this time that you're giving everything that your mortgage lender is asking you for in a timely fashion. Like right away, have this stuff already on hand. Don't make them wait a week, because that will delay this process, and that could hurt your loan, right? The loan could actually drop, and you may not get it if you basically cause too many delays. Read everything and ask as many questions as possible. There's going to be a lot of terms that are getting thrown your way. You're going to be like, what the heck is this? What does this mean? right? Make sure you have complete clarity about everything. Analyze your good faith estimates. So basically, this is going to be a document that's going to have all your numbers on it. It's going to tell you how much your principal and interest is, right? Which is how much you should be paying each and every month. It's going to tell you how much your closing cost is, how much you need to bring to the closing, the down payment, everything. Make sure those numbers look right. Make sure they are in line with what you expected them to be. Because this is a good time when you want you to be able to tell them, hey, this is not looking right, change this, because you want to know exactly what you're getting yourself into when it's time to close. And they're not always that accurate, but they should be pretty close, right? They shouldn't be that far off. Attorney review. So this is another time period where the seller and the buyer, right, contracts are being reviewed by an attorney. It's usually about a 3 to 5 day window. What I encourage you to do is during this time, this is when you want to start getting like your home inspection ready and other things of that nature. Because at this time is when anyone could walk away from this deal and basically everything will be forgiven, right? That contract that is binding, you are not held into that contract during this period. So you have this 3 to 5 day window, once again, to walk away and like, know what, this house is not for me. And it doesn't even matter. It could be you just, maybe you found something better, maybe you don't want to buy a house, you don't need an legitimate reason, you can just walk away if that's what you decide to do. There's also the title company, so usually the attorney will do all that, and they will kind of just make it aware of that as well. So the home inspection. So the inspection is usually done, right? That checks like termites, mold, something called radon. I'm not sure if they do that in New York, but I know in Jersey they check like their radon, which is like some type of like gas that comes up like through the ground and can be like cancerous. So they want to just check to make sure it's not too high, etc. You want it to be like at a certain level. So these are certain things that you will have to pay for, but that's usually all included in your home inspection. So this is, once again, a perfect time to get that home inspection done. Try to attend a home inspection and stay with the inspector the whole time. I know sometimes like with schedules, work, school, right? People may tell the inspector, hey, you go, just send me the report. No, you want to be there because oftentimes they'll point out certain things that might not always be reflective in that report. They might catch certain things that you might not be aware of, you might not understand in that report. So you want to be with them. Even if like the contract or that posting said as is, that there's always, right, you can always negotiate, right? Kind of going back to everything negotiable. So there's usually like a $500 rule, even if it says as is. If you find something wrong with the house and let's say it's not greater than $500, feel free to request that to your attorney. I want them to fix X, Y, and Z, right? I don't like that. This is like this, right? The electric handle is not working. If they were to fix that, usually ain't no one gonna break no deal over $500, right? Over $1,000. So just be mindful of that. That's usually like a unwritten rule. And read and make sure that you fully understand the inspection. Right? It's going to be a long document. It's going to be a lot of information there, but you really want to take the time. I actually made this mistake myself one time, right? I didn't realize, I had looked at it later on, which I got more aware. I was like, let me look at some of my old inspection. And I realized that I had got an inspection during when it was snowing out. So they didn't check the roof. They couldn't check a lot of the stuff outside. They didn't check like the heating unit. And I didn't even know that, right? I just, thank God, everything went working out fine and I was good in the house. But that could have been a really, really bad thing. So just be mindful of that. I should have really got another inspection for that. And don't be afraid to move on. So if there's certain things that come back and that property is not in good shape, there's like crazy leaks or there's some foundation issues, even though you love that property, I mean, feel comfortable enough to walk on and you will be blessed with something else, right? So sometimes that can be a blessing in disguise. So the appraisal. So a real estate appraisal, right, is the process of developing an opinion of what that house is valued for, right? Because every house has a value to it, which is very, very important. So it factors in, like, right, the size, the room, right, the renovations, different things of that nature. And it also protects you from overpaying for the house. So someone might say, hey, my house is worth $500,000. It might be worth $500,000 for no. But what they're going to do is take comparable homes, which is called comps, and they're gonna say, hey, within a certain radius, within a certain time frame, this many houses sold similar to your house for this price, and that's what your house is worth. So those comps may come back saying that house is only worth $300,000. Now, do you really want to pay $500,000 for a house that's only worth $300,000? No, right? It's not good business. So that's why this appraisal is really, really important. So if the appraisal comes back below, I just want you to be mindful of what can happen. Most likely the bank won't lend you the money, especially if you have the FHA loan. That's why a lot of sellers, oftentimes, they don't like people who come with FHA loans. Yes.
This might be kind of some question, but like, let's say like you do check out a house with someone that's like, I guess, familiar with like certain structures and stuff like that, and they can tell like, hey, this guy just did a quick bang up job to make the house look like it's great and stuff like this, but in a year or two, the structural integrity could be compromised or something like that. You know what I mean? So like, how would you go about something like maybe that?
So that would be the home inspection.
Oh, that's what the inspection.
When you go to originally see the house, if you have someone who's like a contractor or a friend, highly encourage you to bring that person with you just to make sure, even before you make the offer, or once you make the offer and it's in attorney review, you're going to do that home inspection, and that's going to be a certified professional who's going to come and inspect everything. They're going to check for mold, they're going to check for foundation, they're going to check for the electric panels, I mean, everything you can possibly think of, termites. I mean, the list goes on and on. They check everything. It's very detailed, and you're paying good money for it, so that's something they're going to give you a report that breaks everything down.
Even if it's like quick fixes, they will be able to catch like
that's all. Yeah, it depends. It really depends on how good that person is, and that's why I highly encourage you to go with that person, a home inspector, just because you see certain things, you're like, this don't look right. You know, you might want to point that to his attention or her attention, right? So you want to be mindful. That's why I highly encourage you to go and you ask as many questions as possible. Especially with a lot of, we have a lot of people who are flipping houses now, and they're not really putting that much money into it. Right? They're just doing a quick job so it looks nice, and they're going to make quick money off of it. And like you said, in 2-3 years, that house that was just the ideal house is now like not so nice, right? So I highly encourage you that. I'm always mindful, especially when it's a house that I was flipping.
Should the home inspection report be done before the appraisal report?
Yeah. Yes. So that's going to be done usually while it's in attorney review, which would be a perfect scenario, which would be before the appraisal. Then once that home inspection comes back and you're okay with everything, the seller's okay with everything, maybe you kind of asked them or requested them to do certain repairs, and they agreed, and now you're out of attorney review, that's when the bank will come in and they send their own people. So you don't get the appraiser, the bank handles all of that, and that's usually when that person comes in place. Once the home inspection and you're out of attorney review, they know you're moving on with this property. And that's usually really one of the final hurdles before closing. And that can be very, very stressful because it's like, all right, the offer was accepted, right? The home inspection is good, right? We're good there. Now it's like, it's a waiting game. Sometimes that appraiser, they can take a while. It might take like a week to come back. It took like a week and a half one time with me. I'm just waiting. I hope these numbers come back good. So just be mindful. It could be a little stressful, but just keep faith. And just really quick to go back to FHA. If the numbers are not good for FHA, they're going to close the deal, and that's it. Basically, they're not going to let you move forward with it. So just be mindful of that. Sometimes if the house, especially if it's like a foreclosed house, and you see that the house needs significant repairs, you may want to go for like another type of loan, like a conventional loan or a 2 or 3K loan, because you'll have a greater chance, even if that appraisal does come back, not what it should come back with that inspection. So finally, the closing, right? Which is the time everybody's been waiting for. So you want to submit your homeowner's insurance declaration page, and be mindful with the homeowner's insurance declaration page. They're going to require you to pay a year of home insurance up front. So that might be like an extra like $800 fee, $600 fee, $500 fee, whatever it is. But you usually have to pay that whole year up front and present that to your mortgage company. Never close without the certificate of occupancy, right, which is called the CO, because if you don't have a CO, no one's able to really occupy that house legally. So you wanna make sure that is on deck and that is there during the closing, right? I actually made that mistake once, and luckily, right, didn't want to work it out, but that was like a whole nother process. But make sure you have that CO. Even if the seller says, oh, don't worry, it will be there, everything, no. Do not close, don't sign no paperwork until you see I have a CO at that closing. Review your HUD-1, so it kind of goes back to like that good faith estimate. So the good faith is just like an estimate of everything. The HUD-1 are the final numbers. So it could be a document that's going to explain this is what you're closing, this is what you're going to be paying monthly, this is what you need to bring to your closing, etc. Make sure all those numbers add up because you don't want to give anyone extra money, right? Because this is an expensive process, so you want to make sure that you're not paying anything over. Do a final walkthrough to confirm that everything was taken care of. So during that home buying process, during that home inspection process, I should say, there might have been things that you asked them to fix. During that final walkthrough, you want to make sure that they actually fixed it. If they didn't, then you will let your attorney know, and they will push that closing back, but they will make sure that it's done before that closing. But usually that morning of, or maybe the day before, I actually say the morning of, you want to make sure that those people are fully cleared out, everything is up to date. And I want to mention too, always keep a reserve for move-in costs too, because even though you're going to be paying a lot of money towards the closing for the house, you want to have some type of reserve, just in case other things that you might not have factored happen once you buy that house. So this is some helpful information. And once again, just to go back to that transparency, these are actual real numbers of properties in which I have purchased and how much I had to put up front. And this should really truly help you, yes.
So that would be like the minimum that you'll have to put down as far as the house, or we don't get 5%?
So it depends. So the minimum, some people actually put down 3% of FHA, a lot of, depending on what type of loan you get, will determine on how much you can put down. So that's a conversation you want to have, especially in the beginning of that process, with your mortgage person, on how much percent I would have to put down for this property. So these are some actual numbers, just so you just kind of have an idea. I know when I started the time of home buying process, no one told me all the fees I would have to kick out of pocket before I actually even got the house, right? You know, I was just getting hit with like fees. I'm like, yo, like, this is crazy. So like the first property I ever bought, right? I actually got a really good deal on it, right? It was foreclosed. I had to put an initial deposit, right, of $1,000. I got a 2 or 3K loan, which was a loan I told you all where they actually helped fix the house up. I actually paid for the certificate of occupancy and the smoke certificate. The only reason I had to pay for that and the seller didn't take care of it because it was a bank-owned property. If it's a seller's person who's in the home selling to you, you don't have to worry about that. That's something they take care of. The home inspection, so you get an idea, right? It's usually like $400 or $500. It might be a little more in New York. I never bought a property in New York, so I wouldn't really know. For soaking fee, this is only with a 3K loan, 2 or 3K loan. That's just a person you're paying for to come and like make assessments of the house, to see what needs to be fixed, and they kind of help you with that process with the renovation. They'll get like a licensed contractor, and they'll just make sure like all the work is completed at the end too. So that's a person you have to pay for. In Jersey, you have to pay for tank sweeps. So a lot of houses in Jersey have like boiler tanks. A lot of them are buried, now they have to be removed. So if you're trying to buy a property in Jersey, just be mindful, you have to get a tank sweep. If a tank is found there, it has to be removed, and hopefully there's like no oil spill, because that could open up a whole other can of worms, and you might not be buying that property depending on how bad that oil spill is. That could be, I've heard stories of people paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to have that house remediated. Be mindful. Home insurance, right? Closing. So you see that the first property before closing, right? I have to bring $9,000. Next one, $16,000. Next one, $28,000. So just be mindful of what it could be. It could be different for everyone, depending on how much the house is. And that's why I highly encourage you, especially if you look at some of these programs like neighborhood housing, if they give you money towards a lot of this stuff, especially towards like the closing costs for free. So do like a $75 workshop. You do everything that they ask you to do throughout their process, and that helps you with a lot of this course for both sides.
I think, you mentioned earlier in the session, and people were understanding, this is where this comes in.
Yes.
It could be a high amount that you don't have, and then you can add it, and then it will be part of the
mortgage, you don't have to worry about money like that. Everyone heard what she said? You just said a little louder.
Yeah. So remember earlier when you mentioned concession, where
So, yeah.
the sales concession, when you tell them, okay, I'm gonna buy the house for 300,000, can I give you can we add 10,000 to it? So that when you have to go with 16,000, you only need 6,000 cash, and then the 10,000 will be added to the mortgage. So that's where that comes in. Yeah.
And the seller concession doesn't necessarily just have to be 10,000.
Yeah.
Right? So if you think it's gonna be like 16,000, then you will put that in there, and that, like you stated, will go towards in your mortgage. So your mortgage payment will be a little higher because that was factored in, so you don't have to come out of pocket. I just so happen to come out of pocket for a lot of this stuff, but you don't necessarily have to do that, all right? Especially if you don't got it, right? So there are other ways to also get the payment. You got a hand up, Cheryl? All right, so really quick, right? Discipline and sacrifices. Who like those words? No one likes those words, right? And oftentimes, especially to make those payments that we just discussed in the previous slides, we're gonna have to make some sacrifices, right? Which is oftentimes very, very hard to do. And this is just some quick tips, right? Some helpful information, right? Average coffee drinker. I know my wife is a huge coffee drinker, right? She loves her caramel, iced coffee from Dunkin' Donuts, gets it every day, right? It's a lot of money, but anyways. The average person, right, who drinks coffee, right, that's $1,000 right there, right? Average smoker, that's like $60 a week. Some people pay even more than that. That's almost $3 grand a year, right? Average worker spends about $50 on lunch, right? Maybe that person who's trying to buy a house, who's trying to save, maybe you want to bring your own lunch, right? Even if it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I like me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? Definitely hit the spot. So I encourage you to just be mindful of what you're spending. And basically, just from these 4 things alone, if those things kind of relate to you, that's like $8 grand right there, that you can save that. So, but it takes discipline, right? I know a lot of people are sneakerheads. They're buying Yeezys. Yeezys like $300, Jordan's $200, right? If you're doing that every month, you say that's like $3 grand. So just be mindful. Another good quick tip, your tax return, right? If you save 1 or 2 tax returns, that's your down payment right there. And just to share kind of a personal story, when I went to get my first investment property, I had made some sacrifices, right? And one of the sacrifices that year, my wife had gotten into a car accident. It wasn't her fault, but long story short, it caused a hole, and some of my friends might remember, to be actually in her car. So her car door had a hole in it, right? What do you think happened? She said, I want a new car, I'm not driving this around, right? And insurance didn't want to take care of it. But long story short, I was like, you know what, you take my car, I drive this car. But that year, I drove the car, I pulled up to meetings, right, with a suit on, getting out. I had a 2002 Saturday with a hole in the middle with people laughing. I'm like, it's cool, because I know my goal, right? My goal is to get my first investment property, right? By the end of that year, I was able to buy my investment property, and I was able to buy a new car cash, because of all the money I was saving by driving that car, right? And just for quick jokes, this is actually the picture of the car. Just so you know, I'm making it up. Right? And it don't even look that bad here, but trust me, it was bad. Right? The car was crazy. So we're wrapping up. This is just some helpful information. I highly encourage you to always take a picture of this. Be mindful that the neighborhood housing, they're no longer on Castleton. They have a brand new phone number. They're on Caution. It's actually like a little townhouse off Jersey Street, not far from sanitation. The home buying websites, just some other programs like NACA, which is like no closing costs, no fees, right? No down payment. They take care of all that. But I believe with them, you have to stay there for like 10 years, right, Abe? With NACA, you have to stay in that house for I believe like 10 years. So
different programs, you see the 10 right?
Yeah, I think there's like 10 years. So just be mindful of that, right? And a lot of these programs can pay as little as 0 to 3.5% down. So that's why this is really important, because you might have to come to the table with a lot of money. And thank you all. If you have any questions, I really truly hope you got something out of it. But feel free to ask questions. There's still more food. I don't know, did we do the raffle yet?
No, there's a few people that have raffle tickets.
All right. So we have the raffle tickets. We're going to be doing a raffle. We're going to be giving away a gift card. We also have Metro cards. Please take food so I don't have to eat all the cookies. And the last thing I do want to mention is next month we're having our biggest event of the year. So at PS44 in Manus Harbor. We're doing a huge toy giveaway. We're giving away hundreds and hundreds of toys. We're gonna be doing a free raffle for Xbox One, PlayStation 4, Amazon tablets, everything. There's gonna be Santa's.
Ugly sweater contest. Ugly sweater contest.
Ugly sweater contest. Bring your best ugly sweater, right? So it's gonna be a lot. So just thank you. And there's some flyers in the back. Thank you all. Have a